All I know is the only time they show up is when someone's about to die.
I just have a dry spot in my throat from the air conditioning. I feel fine. Stop looking at me like that.
Who are you here for?
Not you. None of you. Not today.
Make sure that the promise he made on your behalf is kept, or I promise you the hunters will become the hunted. I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that his sacrifice was not in vain.
I'm an idiot. I'm a loser. No one likes me. My mommy dresses me funny.
A billion souls trapped forever are about to break free.
We want revenge!
Now, there's no limit to what they can do.
Get down!
TNT presents a world premiere movie event.
Fire!
Featuring Martin Sheen as Soul Hunter. River of Souls. Premieres Sunday, November 8th at 8, only on TNT.
You have transmissions holding.
Patch incoming signal. Full audio and video decode.
Purple files accessed.
What you are about to see has never been shown to anyone outside the Great Council.
Welcome back, everybody, to Gray 17, a Babylon 5 podcast. We are here tonight to talk about one of the greatest films in all of the Babylon 5 franchise, and that is River of Souls. For those of you that have been following along with us, we are a group of Babylon 5 longtime fans and a group of newbies who we have introduced to this show and who somehow still claim to be friends with at least some of us on this show. Jessi is currently shaking her head, so there may be some questionable friendships at this point after 5 seasons and a couple TV movies of this, that some things are in question. But we are here at the end of Babylon 5. We have made our way through season 5. We have 1 episode left, which is Sleeping in Light, which we will actually be recording next weekend when we all get together for an in-person recording session. But before we get there, we decided to watch some of the Babylon 5 movies, and that brings us here to River of Souls. My name is Blake, and with me is...
Mike.
Emily.
Me and all the other buttholes. Jessi.
The biggest butthole of all, Justin.
And Kevin.
And as a fan of Spaceballs, how many buttholes do we have on this podcast?
Yo.
Couldn't resist. And for a synopsis, Justin, I believe you've got one for us this evening.
I do. So Blackbeard the pirate steals a glowing bowling ball, causing Jeb Bartlett with a butthole on his forehead to come to Babylon 5 to recover it. Meanwhile, we see the future of internet porn as Lockley and Zach have to contend with the best little whorehouse on B5. Also, who knew that sex toys look like baseball bats in the future? The
Wow.
Justin,
well done.
Okay, that was better than the entire movie.
You definitely have the Lurker's Guide version beat there, Justin, which was a group of soul hunters come to the station demanding the return of something that was stolen. The end.
The end.
Well, it's
that was so
than
much better.
Literally summing it up with whorehouses and buttholes. So, I mean,
in
job,
fairness, though, Jessi, did Scott and I not repeatedly refer to this movie as hollow whores and buttholes?
Yeah. Listen, I stopped listening to you and Scott like 4.5 seasons ago. So
I understand that, but in our defense, we did warn you going into this. You chose not to listen, which is a you problem.
Sounds like a you problem.
Sounds like a you
Not to
problem.
become everyone's problem.
There it is.
So let's go ahead and jump in here and get some first impressions on this from our newbies. And let's go ahead and start with Jessi, because Jessi clearly has some thoughts.
I've seen worse. It wasn't the best. It wasn't the worst. I don't know. I hated the last movie a hell of a lot less than or a lot more than I hated this one. I'm gonna tell you, I didn't hate it. This was a 2-nap movie. I started, I napped, I continued on, I napped, and then I finished the rest of the movie. And I'm still not sure if I actually saw the whole thing, but I did see the whorehouse and the buttholes on the forehead. So other than that, that's really all I got.
Justin.
I do love me some Ian McShane, so I did kind of enjoy that part of it. I did like Martin Sheen's portrayal at times, but I love Martin Sheen as an actor, and honestly, I feel like this is the most we've seen out of Lockley, more than the entire 5th season. So I was, I agree with Jessi. It wasn't the greatest thing I've ever seen in Babylon 5, but it wasn't by far the worst. So I'm kind of meh on it.
Now, Emily, we have finally hit a Sheridan-free episode.
And I should have loved it. And yet, what the fuck did you make me watch?
Don't let us down, Emily.
There was one character in there who I did recognize, and all I could think was Ella Marine, move along home. So yeah.
Oh boy, yes.
You've managed to connect one of the shittiest episodes of Deep Space Nine into this.
Oh, the shittiest. And it's not close. But okay.
Fair point.
But I will say that like a hologram version of Lockley would be awesome, so she could show me her workout, because I want arms like hers.
Mm-hmm.
Like for real. I think that's why all the women were checking hers out. They want her workout program.
I want the hologram for different reasons, but we won't go there.
Amen.
Look, I'm just saying they want the workout program. Take it as you
The
wish.
workout program.
There would be cardio involved in Justin's
ladies.
use. Justin would definitely get some cardio in with that program.
I lose 100 pounds like that.
That's a different arm muscle than the one she focuses on.
My right arm would just be completely jacked.
It'd be all water weight though from the sweat.
Getting jacked, jacking
dehydration is the enemy.
So let's go over to our first one and get their thoughts on this. And Mike, why don't you kick us off here?
I also enjoyed seeing a lot more of Captain Lockley. I liked this movie. I thought it was much better than I remembered. It actually rung true to like some good old season 1 B5 schlock, where it challenged viewers with some kind of philosophicalness, and it threw in a nice healthy dose of late 80s, early 90s camp in the form of a holographic whorehouse, and a character that I hope we never see again. And I completely forgot that Ian McShane was in this, and that made it all so much better.
And Kevin.
I feel like I shouldn't have liked this at all, but it's not bad. It felt like I definitely remembered it being worse than I thought it was this time around. I didn't like some of the acting, which we'll get into, but overall, I didn't think it was bad. It definitely was quite philosophical, and it got into some interesting aspects, and it did feel more like season 1 with better special effects and better production value. So yeah, let's get into it.
So I also agree this movie was not as bad as I recalled it, but I want to point out something that was brought up, and very timely, I might add, on our Facebook group. One of our followers posted this morning a meme that was, Deep Space Nine is 0% coy about the purpose of the holodeck. Next Generation is like, in the holodeck, you may well find adventure or even love. And Deep Space Nine is like, welcome to Quark's Klingon fisting fiesta, squeegee not provided, no refunds. And
yep.
I kind of feel Babylon 5 kind of hit this even before. This is what the holodeck would be used for, folks. It would be a hollow whorehouse. Let's not even pretend otherwise that would be the holodeck. The internet
is for porn.
So, and I agree, there was some good casting in this. I like Ian McShane. I like Martin Sheen. I don't know if it necessarily worked as much in this.
Yeah.
And I get it, but when Martin Sheen first showed up as the Soul Hunter, I took some issue with the portrayal, and then I did go back and read some of JMS's comments, which I'm sure we'll touch on at some point, with as Kevin described before we started, it was kind of like President Bartlett meets Rain Man, or I said Bartlett on his back medicine type portrayal of a Soul Hunter. But overall, it's not as bad. And you're right, it has those ethical moments of morality that we see in the first season of Babylon 5, and it puts in some of the lighter campiness that we saw in the earlier season. So not bad, by far not the greatest, and definitely not my favorite of the B5 movies. So where do we want to start in with a discussion of this one? Kevin, you want to jump in and start? Because I know this is a director you like, so.
Yeah, Janet Greek, directed quite a few of the hard-hitting and very good episodes of the series.
And then this.
Yeah. And so it's not hard to understand why they would pick her to do one of the B5 movies, because she definitely is, one of the more skilled directors that they had been using during the run. But, this particular movie, not the strongest of things, but again, you could point at a few different things that wouldn't necessarily have to do with Janet Greek's tenure in the movie. But yeah, I think the casting of Ian McShane and Martin Sheen, it would not have been the choices that I would have made. Not that I am any sort of industry expert, but I think that casting Martin Sheen on this part and the way that he portrayed this particular soul hunter, which they did get into and said, hey, I'm young for a soul hunter, even though he's 4,000 years old or something. And that was clearly part of his thought process when he was portraying the character. But I think it came off better, the soul hunter, the first soul hunter that we saw in the original episode in the first season, a little bit more severe, a little bit more stoic. I thought that was a better portrayal of the type of character that the soul hunter had been kind of made out to be. And as far as Ian McShane, I know he's a good actor, so is Martin Sheen, but I did not connect with their portrayals of the characters in this, and I thought Ian McShane kind of ate some scenery in this in this movie. So I did not particularly care for the casting.
Justin.
I mean, I don't necessarily have any problem with the direction. I don't think that the direction was that bad at all. I think a lot of it had to do with the writing of it, and just some you can tell there are very some campy scenes into it where, for the first time, and you know what, how long have we been doing this now? And I still can't remember the guy's name from CNC who gave her the Corwin, that's right. Corwin came off kind of creepy to me. At times in this particular episode, he was just acting kind of weird around Lockley. So I don't know if they were trying to write in some kind of maybe crush he has on her or something like that. But yeah, I mean, McShane, I think, did fine. He was kind of Indiana Jonesy at the beginning, until he kind of lost his mind due to the soul orb, or whatever you want to call it. And I think Martin Sheen was just very Martin Sheen in this role. Like, to me, I don't see him kind of performing it any other way, just in his own, way of, doing a character where he's very, I love Martin Sheen to death, but he's not always the most emotive actor at times. He had some really great scenes in West Wing that he knocked it out of the park in terms of emotion, but he's not always the most emotive actor. So the way he performed the Soul Hunter, I thought he did a perfectly fine job. But yeah, I mean, I think it's more, to me, I think the directing was great. I just think it was more of a writing issue. Love you, JMS.
So JMS, when you watch this episode, it is Justin, spelled Justin. He's the one that commented on the writing. No. And the one thing I will comment, because there's still a little bit from JMS commenting when this came out, and this came up about why did Martin Sheen's Soul Hunter speak so oddly at first. And JMS's explanation was what we had discussed, which was with the actor, director, and himself, was that the soul hunters do not generally get much of a chance to hang out and talk to people. They can emphatically sense the language. However, when they encounter others, at first, he did not know the language very well and was gradually becoming more able to express himself. So they played it as this is someone who just doesn't interact with people when he first arrived, and then got more comfortable, and that's why the speech pattern kind of changed as they went through. So it was an intentional choice for the direction based on the director, JMS, and Martin Sheen.
So soul hunters have social anxiety. Got it.
Yes. Kevin.
Thought it was good that we were able to see Tracy Scoggins and Jerry Doyle and I'm sorry, the gentleman that played Zach Allen, in this a lot, they had not gotten a ton of time to be able to do stuff, especially in the movies. So, but I guess JMS had explained that at one point that they kind of had to rotate it through because because of the budgeting. But
yeah, they had $3 million per movie, so they kind of had to rotate the cast through.
Yeah. What I wanted to say though, there was a line at the beginning of the movie that I thought was really funny. It was nothing good ever comes easy, and then the other guy's like, well, nothing good ever comes the other way either, because I would much rather the universe just hand me my damnation. I hate to have to be made to work for it. That's bullshit. Save me the effort. I thought that was a really funny quote in this. And that was probably the high point of the writing for me as far as quotables for this episode. But yeah, we were talking before, like you said, Blake, and I said it just felt like alien space monk Jeb Bartlett in this with a little bit of something else thrown in. It just did not connect with me.
Mike.
Well, I won't harp on the acting too much because I think you hit the nail on the head, and it's funny because you kind of headed it off a little bit. I was going to say that Martin Sheen's portrayal of the Soul Hunter overall was fine, but that very first scene was pretty hard to watch, and it did feel to me like it was an intentional choice. So it's kind of funny to hear the explanation that it was an intentional choice, but it definitely did not play very well. It felt like a misstep to take a talented actor like Martin Sheen and have him under a bunch of thick makeup and prosthetics with a butthole on his forehead, and then have him play Martin Sheen droid for an entire very long scene. But beyond that, I'm a huge fan of Ian McShane. He's great in practically everything that I've ever seen him in, regardless of how good the surrounding material is. Pirates of the Caribbean. But I thought he was great. I loved this character in this. I thought it was very big Indiana Jones vibes, very much playing into the archetype of like the archaeologist who's desperate to make a discovery, to make a name for himself, and maybe a little bit morally ambiguous as a result. And then besides that, I think you already mentioned it, Kevin, but it was really nice to see Jeff Conaway get to have a little bit bigger part in this. I was actually really refreshed to see that some of the other main cast who we generally focus on got pushed to the side, and we got to see Lockley and Zach have a field day a little bit, and even Garibaldi, who I'm generally not the biggest fan of character wise. I was glad to see him come back and get to do that unlikely pairing with Lockley and get to choose some scenery a little bit with him. While we're at it, I'll just go ahead and say I also thought Corwin was creepy, and I thought Klaus in the very beginning was an absolute delight. And I'm sorry he got vaporized.
Yeah, that was the guy with the line that I liked.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jessi.
Well, I'm so glad that you guys are so goddamn positive. I would like to throw in my hate now. I fucking hated Garibaldi's fucking mustache. Oh, it's the worst. Just shave it off. Shave it off or go with the beard. Please stop the military cop firefighter stash. Thank you. Thank you for coming to TED Talk.
Wow. Who knew Garibaldi's facial hair would be so off-putting?
She's right. It looks stupid.
No, it's rough.
She's right.
It's not just like a little bit. It's his whole freaking under.
Yeah, it was bad.
No, sir. Cut it off. Thank you.
I will say I did like the scene with him and Lockley, though, when he first showed up in her office, and they kind of had their little back and forth with each other. But it ended with her asking in that genuinely caring tone of, "Are you still sober?" And it was I did like that scene between them, and that really does sum up their dynamic both on screen and off screen, because those two really did butt heads, as we've commented on, even back to her audition when JMS brought him in to purposely try to get under her skin to get a reaction from her.
I don't feel like me and him would have gotten along.
With Jerry Doyle or JMS.
Yeah.
I don't think too many of us would have gotten along with Jerry Doyle.
Especially after he went into politics.
Yeah.
Justin.
Honestly, I had a comment, but then I'm just sitting here thinking, I don't remember actually seeing him with facial hair. I did notice it.
It
You know
was.
what?
Yeah, I
Your
don't
brain
either.
did what mine did and removed it because it looked so fucking terrible that it just rejected it. Your brain's
Maybe
like,
with
nope,
me it
it's
was
not
a
there.
psychological thing, Emily. Maybe with me I just saw Garibaldi being Garibaldi, and actually I thought Doyle did great in this episode. I don't
I'm
know, maybe
not
I wasn't
saying he,
watching the same
listen,
movie you guys were.
this was absolutely nothing to do with his acting. This is petty as fuck. And this is very shallow, surface level shit. I hated his mustache. He's a great actor.
Didn't
Don't know
even know
about
he
him
had
personally.
one. So thank you for. I was today years old when I realized that Jerry Doyle had a mustache in
It
this
was.
movie.
It was kind of like 5 o'clock shadow times
Really bad
2 or
5 o'clock shadow,
3.
like
Yeah,
worse than
and
mine.
but it was just here. It looked really, but it looked really stupid.
Let me get
It
you a
was like,
screenshot, Justin.
yeah, it was like when you're a parent and your kid plays soccer and they get beat like 20-0 because that one kid on the other team has a mustache and he's quote unquote 8 years old.
So it's Little League.
Yeah.
So there's also been some comments about Corwin being creepy, and I think it was just Corwin being socially awkward like he has through a lot of this series, because even if you go back to some of the interactions with Corwin and Ivanova, there was the episode early on where he pretended like he found flowers outside of her door when he was taking them to her, and at one point thought Ivanova was hitting on him. So Corwin has been kind of socially awkward throughout.
Yeah, it's different though, because I genuinely thought that was kind of cute that he had like a crush on Ivanova, but like, dude, hitting yourself with a bat that says "I love you," no, that's weird.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I definitely could have done without the window into the person that Corwin is with his love bat. But it didn't come off real too much as creepy. I agree with Blake. It came off more just socially awkward, and him just genuinely wanting to help out his commanding officer, who he may or may not have a crush on. I don't know, but
maybe cringy is a better description than creepy.
It was definitely a little on the cringy side, yes.
And let's be honest, when he whipped out a love bat, given the fact that there was already a whorehouse in this episode, let's just be glad it was actually a bat.
Did anyone laugh at the end when it was turned around, or did everyone think it was campy and stupid?
It was stupid.
Campy and stupid.
Yeah,
it was stupid, but I did love the last one when it said, "My mom dresses me in stupid outfits."
My mom dresses me funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can go with that.
Justin.
Well, I mean, I guess cringy is a better word for it than creepy, because I think Corwin just out-Corwined himself in this one. He's always kind of had these little awkward moments, but to me, he just came out full out incel in this one. Like, when she first pulled out the baseball bat, and I'm like, oh, great, he's going to teach her about rage rooms. And then I'm like, well, maybe he's going to teach her, I love, hitting some baseballs at, like they've done before in the show. Maybe that'll help alleviate her stress. But no, it's something that I feel like I need in my life, is maybe I need a love bat. But, it was just when all of a sudden we're, I love you, I forgive you. And I'm like, who hurt you, Corwin?
Right.
Who hurt you? What kind of bullshit toxic relationships have you had in your life to where you have to hit yourself in order to feel any kind of love and self-esteem? I actually kind of pity the poor kid.
Well, for anybody who's watched the show Billions, there's a whole topic around that particular question, Justin. Jessi.
You're better than me because you say you have to hit yourself. I'm hitting other people with that bat. Whack. I love you. Whack. I'm sorry.
Jessi, there are some listeners I'm pretty sure would be into that if we put that on Patreon.
No, thank you. So what I was gonna say, there was a conversation when Lockley was talking to the guy that stole the soul, and Garibaldi explains to her what he does. Like, he dumbs it down very much and says this is what he does. And she says, oh my gosh, thank you so much for telling me that. If you hadn't explained that to me, I probably just would have passed out and died or something. I can't remember what she said. I was like, that is amazing.
That was boss ass bitch right there. Yeah.
Thank you for mansplaining to me. How do I possibly tie my shoes in the morning without you explaining to me how to do it? Like, I loved it. I was giggling and I was like, yeah, fuck that. I'm doing that in the future when somebody does that dumb shit to me too.
So this is another one of Babylon 5's where, again, we go back to JMS being a devout atheist, but where this show can delve into topics of religion and morality, where you have the discussion of souls and what ultimately happens to souls or where they go. And you've got Zach Allen talking about heaven. You've got the soul hunters who are taking these souls to preserve them, thinking they're right. So there's quite a bit around the discussion of souls and what happens and what's right or wrong. So anyone want to jump in and talk about that one a little bit? Good talk. Justin.
I mean, I guess I'll kind of start. It's very interesting, like throughout this, you see the whole dichotomy of religious thought. You know, you have groups of people who believe that there is an afterlife, like Zach does. You have people who believe that there's nothing. Even the soul hunters themselves, their whole business is collecting souls, which is a spiritual entity. But yet they don't believe in any afterlife. So, like, if you die and they don't capture your soul, well, then your soul just dissolves into nothingness, like a slug with salt being poured onto it. But it's to me, it's more of what I took from this in terms of like the philosophical element is with the soul hunters, you 100% agree, like who are they to decide what souls get to be preserved and which don't? Who is worthy of eternal life and who doesn't? And that can even fall back into the religious aspect of everything where, you have groups of people who decide, what, if you believe my way, then your soul gets to live forever. You get eternal paradise. And if you don't like the way I do things, well, then you're gonna either rot in nothingness or suffer eternal damnation or whatever the case may be. And it's just, the way everybody's own particular views on the afterlife kind of come into conflict during this is kind of interesting because it's what we see in normal human interactions every day. Each of us may have our own different spiritual views, and each of us may have our own view of the afterlife, if anyone even believes in one. But at the end of the day, we're all on the same journey. We're all on the same kind of path, and the end of the path looks different to everyone else, which I thought was another interesting thing that they brought up with the whole little with the glowing bowling ball is like when Ivanova was sucked, not Ivanova, wow. When Lockley was sucked down into there. Yeah, the chat's gonna go crazy about that. But when Lockley was sucked down in there and she's sitting there talking to an image of Franklin with a really weird accent for some reason, the whole thing is like your soul perceives what you want it to see. So like she wanted to see a friend, so Franklin appeared. And when Martin Sheen's character, which we never did get a name for him, did we? But when the soul hunter was sucked down into there and is now living in the orb, who else appears to him but Lockley. So it's almost like we each perceive our souls to what we want it to be. We each perceive the afterlife to what we want it to be. And if you do believe in an afterlife, I think it's perfectly reasonable that the people you see in your afterlife are the people that you love the most in your regular life. So I thought it was all kind of an interesting take.
Jessi.
I think it's a friendly reminder to mind your own fucking business and don't worry about other people. Because we have a whole, not to make it political, but we have a whole portion of the country that tries to make laws based off their fucking religion. And I don't do your religion, so your rules don't apply to me. But yeah, leave my soul alone. Just leave me alone. Let whatever my maker is deal with me and don't try to play God. I don't love it. It's a very weird concept to me that some people get chosen and others don't. So yeah, I need remember when you used to have to do reports for school and you would have like 3 was perfect, 2 was, you met standards, 1 was like you needed help. I need a Rubik's. Is that what it was?
Rubric.
I can't remember.
Rubric.
Rubric. There we go. Thank you. It's been a minute since I've been in school. I need a rubric for what means that my soul meets the qualifications for your bullshit. Because unless that is, just leave my soul alone. Let me rot wherever I'm going. Thank you.
Kevin.
Yeah, somebody who has struggled with any sort of spiritual belief system for 44 years now. I did find this interesting because it certainly is thought provoking, and I really appreciate that from JMS. I wonder if anyone noticed there was a very small continuity error because it was clearly Zach who thought there was life after death, and Garibaldi was like no. And then later on, Lockley's talking about, well, some people believe that there's life after death, like Mr. Garibaldi, and I was like, no, that was Zach. Oops. And I try not to be that guy to point out that stuff all the time. But usually JMS has such tight writing that he usually doesn't have those. So I was just surprised by it.
Emily.
Okay, so this was probably the one aspect of the movie that I liked because to me it called out the arrogance of the soul hunters because they're like, we've been doing this. How could we be wrong? And it's like, you are fucking wrong and you haven't been paying attention. And the arrogance of assuming that they're dying instead of maybe changing forms or something. Yeah, so I actually appreciated that bit of basically saying maybe sit and have a critical thought about your belief system once in a while. And is what you're doing logical? Could it be harmful? Like, think about it for a minute or two, maybe 5 or more.
Yeah, I think that's typical, JMS to have religious overtones in his writing and yet also have, a message about religious extremism in there.
Mm-hmm.
Justin.
I mean, I thought one of the interesting things with me about all that is when you're talking about Lockley was kind of talking to him about, or I guess confronting him about what they do and the purpose of their order. And she's like, well, when you capture these souls, what do you do with them? And it's like, well, we put them in a place. Well, then what do you do? What do you mean, what do we do? So it's like, well, then what's the purpose of capturing all these souls if you don't do anything with them? They're just living in these orbs. Like, why? And he didn't have a good answer for that. It was something that never even occurred to him. Why do we do this? Why, what's even the whole purpose? So it was definitely a very interesting thing to see a soul hunter, like with how, like during the original Soul Hunter episode, which I try to forget about, it was, very much very militant soul hunter. This is what we do. This is what we're about. And then you finally see one start to kind of question themselves. And you know what? Admit finally we are wrong. We made a horrible mistake. Maybe he still sees merit in a lot of the stuff that their order does, but in this particular situation, they basically abducted an entire race to the point where they're about to evolve beyond physical beings. And if he could have emoted horror in his eyes or in his voice, I think Sheen would have done that. But he even finally would have to come around and admit, yeah, we messed up, guys, and we have to prove it to ourselves. So I thought his sacrifice towards the end was a very noble sacrifice. Like, let me be the bridge between you and let us finally help you achieve that evolution. I just don't know with him living in the orb if that's going to actually happen. I wish I could have confidence in saying that, oh yeah, they're going to come around and it may take a couple 100 years, but they're going to come around and they're going to let them finally achieve their, full potential and stuff like that. But I almost have a bad feeling that they get locked up, back locked up in the vault, and Martin Sheen's just hanging out with the rest of them for the rest of eternity.
Mike.
Yeah, I could have swore that at some point, and maybe I'm actually thinking of the original Soul Hunter episode, but I thought at some point the Soul Hunters mentioned that they do talk to the souls at some point, but it certainly didn't seem that way, did it? Because we have our archaeologist friend cracking open the giant ancient temple that's like got hundreds upon hundreds of little soul orbs all locked away in a dark place, as he even says later in the episode. We shouldn't have put them in a dark place where they go mad. So it's very much gives you the vibe that they collect for the sake of collecting, and they squirrel them away in a place where nobody gets to see them or interact with them or appreciate them, and then they kind of forget about them, and they just do it like an obsessive compulsive disorder. That is very much something that I feel like I have with collecting, and maybe also the British have with their National Museum and their basements full of stuff that you don't get to see. So there's another.
They did mention in this episode they put them in. They called it a whisper gallery, where the
yes.
thought was they would interact with each other. Apparently, the glass balls would talk to each other.
Seemingly isn't the case.
Yes.
And there was one other component to this story that I thought was kind of worth bringing up, since we're kind of talking about the more philosophical aspects of this storyline, the very season 1-ish philosophical stuff, and that is where it begins and why Ian McShane's character, whose name I have forgotten, and I'm going to go look it up for the sake of it, Dr. Robert Bryson, why he's on his mission in the first place. He is on a quest to figure out how to, crack immortality, and I enjoyed the initial conversation between, I think it was him and Garibaldi, when Garibaldi challenged him about, and who's going to get to be immortal? Is it going to be the rich? That is a storyline I would have very much enjoyed getting more exploration, but I'm glad that they at least snuck a nod to it in here, because that's obviously a very sci-fi premise. It's basically the plot of Avatar 2, the Way of Water, not the other one with the kid with the arrow on his head. Yeah.
Jessi.
Buttholes, 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 buttholes. I can't help it. Every single freaking time I see their forehead, I think buttholes, and it takes me back to what, season 1? Yeah, buttholes. So glad I could add that. A fucking delight. Leave me alone.
Jessi, I almost expect you to go into like the Great Cornholio there for a minute. Butthole.
I want to. Sorry, Kevin, do you have something?
No. Go ahead, Brian.
Mike wants to talk about buttholes.
No, you actually reminded me of something though. So brace yourselves, strap in. No, I was actually just going to point out the fact that I genuinely wonder if you all went back and rewatched the original Soul Hunter episode, how you would feel about it now. And I say that because the original Soul Hunter was also an absolutely top-notch actor. It was William Morgan Shepherd, who I thought had a great portrayal. And I think the fact of the matter is that I thought this was jarring. I could not believe this was true when I went back and looked at it. I can't believe Soul Hunter was episode 2 of the entire Babylon 5 series.
Was it really?
I thought it was.
Yeah, no, it was number 2.
Yep.
Literally the second one you watched after you swallowed that giant shit nugget that was The Gathering.
Yeah.
So I really do wonder, if you watch that again, how you all would feel about it now that we've been on a 5-season journey. But it's neither here nor there.
The Gathering, and then Midnight on the Firing Line, and then Soul Hunter.
Yeah, okay, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
What I was going to say was, if we don't mind moving on to the topic of the brothel.
Let's talk whorehouses.
I think it's frightening that somebody could just show up with a picture of just anyone they fucking want.
Mm-hmm.
It's so creepy. And they did this in Ready Player One too, a little bit, where they had these haptic suits, and they could do this type of thing too. And it's horrifying that someone would be able to do this. But I suppose you could make a counter argument there, but I choose not to.
I mean, we're basically not to the exact technical wizardry extent, but I mean, now that we have AI and AI art generation, we are living this horror show already.
Yeah.
Jessi.
So, hot take. It was very rapey and really kind of like bordering SA type shit. When I watched it, I was like, wait, so you can just, listen, you can just get somebody's pictures now and do the same shit, but like not to that extent. And when I was watching, I was like, wow, that feels very violating. Like, it feels very, I would not love that if I was the person that they gave the picture to. And because just yuck is what came to mind over and over and over and over. Yuck.
It's the fact that, really realistically, as I said, AI art is already a thing, and going forward, there absolutely will be a gigantic need for legislation by people who are up on the times and understand actually what the fuck is happening, to write good legal legislation to control or try to control this Pandora's box that's being unleashed upon us.
Well, and add into that you also have VR gaming environments. You've got things like Oculus, you've got Apple Vision now, and there's already components of that have haptic feedback. You were not that far off from this being a potential legit issue.
So it is already a legit issue, and I will not go into super detail, but there's a federal statute that addresses AI generated images of people that should not have them generated by like children. So there are laws and statutes addressing that. But like to my knowledge, and clearly I'm not a lawyer, so I'm just a simple snake milker, leave me alone. I don't know much about like laws regarding adults. And I think that, like Mike said, I think that eventually there will need to be that, because it's very invasive and creepy and I don't love it. But just a side note, if anybody ever loses their fucking mind and decides that they want that with me, I will find you. That's not a threat. So leave me out of this bullshit. Thank you very much.
With the AI part, because I've got a Adobe Creative account that I use for various things, and the Adobe stock, I can go out there and search an image and it will do AI generated images to match what I want. I can even go into InDesign or Photoshop or any of those, and they've got AI tools now where I can sit there and tell it, I want to make this modification, I want to make that, and it will use generative AI tools to do what I tell it to do. So it is getting very freaky.
Yeah. So forensically, I've seen, unfortunately, things that most people should never seen ever. And you can't tell the difference between AI generated stuff and actual stuff involving like SA and minors and stuff like that. You can't tell. And you know what? Like when people are like, oh, it's just, at least they're pictures. No, that's not just what they are. So this AI stuff is terrifying as a snake milker. It's really scary. And it's not easy to address. So, and I think it's only going to get worse.
Justin, are you going to say the internet's for porn again for us? No, actually.
Just wanted to check.
I was going to try to be semi-serious for a second. For once in a while.
I don't like it.
No, 100% agree that we need to have legislation kind of addressing that kind of shit, because, you even saw Lockley's reaction, to her holographic image and the way that she was being used, and actually the way that she was able to shut that down, and good on her. To me, like, even in my line of work, using Shopify for a lot of stuff, I can sit there and just type in, a couple words, and AI will write an entire product description for me that sounds better than anything I can even write in my lifetime. AI terrifies me. Okay. I have been watching Terminator for 40 years. I cannot stress enough how we have to get control of this, because I do not want Skynet coming after my ass. And I'm sorry, that's what I call it now. Anytime I even have, Shopify write a product description for me, it's Skynet that did it, not me. So, it's, call me weirdo, but no, I've been watching too many sci-fi my entire life to ever trust that shit.
No, I'm right there with you, Justin. We both grew up on those movies, and anytime I see that shit, I comment similarly to myself.
Oh, it makes me shiver, man. It's
even on a creative side, though, is there's certain resources I use professionally that it used to take skill to, if you needed to program a query or a calculation or certain things, that you needed to have some base knowledge of how to program to get what you wanted, or how to write the equation to return the result you wanted. And now you can sit there and type a question in and it will AI generate that for you, which worries me even on a professional front of what happens when you have people that can just write in the question box of, I want to know X, gets the answer, but can't actually explain how X happened or provide any of that information behind that. I mean, that's even on a professional side. But beyond that, I mean, then you get into the whole thing where you've got artists who actually do create versus people who type in and create the AI generated images. I mean, there's a whole argument there around people with professions and skill and versus what can you do with just clicking a button, but what knowledge do you lose with that as well?
Well, and Blake, that all then, comes up to the question is what happens when Skynet, decides that you're obsolete, and that's just not even only in like your profession. That's people have been made entire films off of AI generated technology. So then what happens to screenwriters? What happens to directors? What happens to actors? Now that, and this has honestly been happening for years. It's not anything new. Like, I remember the guy who played the main, not the leader from Power Rangers, but the guy who was like their boss. They brought him in, sat him down, had him record a few, 1 day's worth of work, and then he never saw a dime of it more than $150 for his time and effort. When is it going to get to come to the point to where actors, where they can just capture your voice and likeness, like what they did with James Earl Jones, is they completely recorded a bunch of him speaking. Well, now, from now on in Star Wars, anything, and and anytime they have to do anything with Darth Vader, it's all going to be AI generated in James Earl Jones's voice.
Yeah,
Well,
there have been several
and
examples of that already.
Yeah.
yeah,
We've heard
and
it
that's
from
that's
Robin
happened.
Williams'
Yeah,
daughter and beyond.
yeah,
Yeah, your point's well taken, Justin. But let's not forget that James Earl Jones like signed off on that completely.
Oh, I know that, but
I know you do too. But
no, I know he agreed to it. But then, what's it going to take for some studio or some person to just not necessarily get that permission?
That's one of the part of
like what happened with Lockley. Like they didn't have her permission to use her image, but yet she was one of the most popular characters there in the brothel.
Well, and that was one of the issues with the SAG-AFTRA strike that was
Yeah.
recent, was they wanted to have it where people that would be basically background actors on a film, where the studio could capture their likeness and then digitally use them
forever,
whenever, however, wherever they wanted. And you get to, okay, the studio captures their image and has that. And okay, now they're doing a movie and they need to digitally put someone into a sex scene. Are they now putting that person into the scene that they would have never consented to be in because they're just using that likeness image that they have?
Yeah, it becomes abuse of your persona at that point.
Yes.
Or you could see a future where, the studios don't have to hire extras anymore. They're just going to digitally put them in through AI means. And, that's a scary prospect too. I think the last writer strike had something to do with that too, or at least that was one of the issues that they wanted to bring up too, along with the actor strike.
And boy, never did I ever think that we would end up going down a really deep rabbit hole discussion of AI and the dangers of it. But here we are. And I'll just point out and continue our little soapbox here that I mean it goes well beyond Hollywood. I mean, we've historically always had technological invention come along and make certain people and their jobs obsolete, and it goes, like I said, it goes well beyond artists and actors and writers. There's a lot of that. To Blake's point, you can go sit down and ask an AI to write you a SQL query without you knowing a lick of SQL. I'm a computer programmer. I am being force-fed AI every day. It's becoming very rapidly an essential tool in my toolkit, one that I have admittedly reluctantly started to embrace because all of my colleagues have dove in head first, and now I have to keep up. But we've all kind of jokingly said, like, yeah, we're pretty soon, man, I'm going to be less knowing how to code and more I'm going to become a prompt engineer, where all I need to do is dissect and understand the requirements and then know how to ask the computer to do my job for me. And it sounds like the kind of thing that should be awesome and amazing and make my life better. And I'm genuinely worried sometimes that it's going to make someone else's job really easy while it puts me out on the street. I mean, that's a fact.
The potential for meddling too, because look at tech billionaires who own newspapers right now who can meddle. What happens when they want to start meddling in the responses the AI gives?
Yes, well, and you actually brought me to my other 2 points, and I hope I'm not stepping on anybody else by saying this, but the first one is we are starting to see a shift to where the AI systems that are out there today, and I'm gonna completely forget which ones I'm talking about because there are a few different big ones out there, but we are starting to see a shift where you can ask them to show their work. Whether anybody will actually do that or not is a great question, because the how the AI arrives at its answer is a very big problem, and there's an excellent episode of Last Week Tonight with John Oliver that covers why that is. But we are getting to a point where you can ask the tools to show their work, which is good. But the other thing is, and this is the really terrifying point to me, is as we start replacing people with genuine know-how with people who know how to use AI, AI is frequently wrong. And that's kind of a part and parcel thing. It will happily generate code that does not in any way, shape, or form work, or code that will just absolutely obliterate a database if you run it on blind faith that it's going to do the right thing. And that is another very scary aspect of this. So I don't know. I guess that's the last bullet points that I care to make about the topic for our River of Souls discussion.
Jessi,
it's almost like Mike does this for a living. Hey. Yeah. So let's talk about how scary, and we've, like Mike said, we've gone down a rabbit hole about AI, and it's very
It is on brand for us, though.
Yeah.
We do
It's
this
very
frequently.
timely. Yeah.
and it's relatable because like we're seeing things on here that are like very weird. And so I'm watching I'm an idiot when it comes to knowing what's real and what's not. Cause like people are like, oh, AI, everybody thinks everything's real. I don't fucking know the difference. Like I'm watching a cat walking on a couch, and every time they take a step, like some kind of fucking weird caramel liquid comes out of their paws. And it's like all over the couch. And I'm thinking, what the fuck is wrong with this cat? Like I'm like watching it like, holy shit, I don't ever want that to happen to my dog. What are we dealing with here? And and as I go into the like, fucking what a dumbass, right? Like how I didn't know it was AI. But I go into the comments and people are like, oh, people are so gullible. Yes. Hello, gullible. This is me. Like I'm watching this whole thing and you can't tell what's real and what's not real anymore. And did you guys hear, sorry, down another rabbit hole, did you guys hear about the AI that was like, so you guys see like Snapchat and like you have it in Facebook Messenger where your AI will like talk to you? Have you guys seen this? Okay. So there was like some kid, I just saw this yesterday. There was some kid that the AI told him to kill himself and he fucking killed himself. Like, so listen, not everybody's going to kill themselves if AI tells them to, but if you're already in that weird place and, your best friend in AI on Snapchat is telling you, you should just do it. Like, that is fucking weird to me. And like his mom was just losing her shit about why this even happened. And the fucking company's like, sorry, we've made some safety protocols to make sure it doesn't happen again. That doesn't bring the mom's kid back. Like, and it's just very scary to me. It's a very scary thing. And I think Mike's in on it. That's my conspiracy theory of the day.
No, but that is kind of the thing I'm talking about. Is it very well did say that, and it's a blind box in a lot of cases as to why.
Yes.
What data was pumped into the AI that it quote unquote learned from, that it eventually reached that point.
Well, if a kid's talking about how depressed they are, how terrible their life is, how this, and this, if you're A, B, and C in it, they're eventually going to get to D. And D is based off of what the kid is saying, and it's scary. It's scary to me. I don't love it.
This is an interesting time where like a lot of times with these, it's not uncommon that you watch like an episode of Star Trek or something, and then like flash forward 10 years and we don't have little communicator buttons on our shirts, but we have things that are 10 times more powerful that we wear on our wrists, right?
Yes.
Like the future became reality. We're kind of watching that in real time happening right now with media like B5 that's not that old.
Mm-hmm.
Internet security has become infinitely more unsafe and very complicated because of AI too, and that's something that has hit my profession pretty hard within the last couple of years, and that's probably only going to get worse. I mean, we already did not do a good enough job with information and internet security, and now we've got AI that just can infinitely poke so many more holes in it. It is a very scary time.
And I genuinely wonder, maybe this is a good one for like you listeners out there to go hop on Facebook and give us some feedback on this, but I genuinely wonder how many people out there have worked at a place that has been cyber attacked in the last 5 years, 10 years. I'll raise, my hand is up. Kevin raised his hand. It's Blake. Yeah, I mean, it's so common now. So common.
I mean, it could have destroyed the organization I work for, and that's obviously my livelihood. So
even outside, though, to Mike's point, outside of our own organizations, how interdependent we are on other things, because there was a attack on Amazon Web Services that took out AWS for a little while, that directly impacted the tools I use for my job and basically shut me down and caused some real heartburn because AWS went down.
Yeah. Well, we all suffered it when the transportation strike, or not strike, transportation strike. When the airlines went down, CrowdStrike went down in July of this year. Similar idea.
Just as long as you don't make me feel bad for Jeff Bezos.
No, not at all. Fuck him.
And I know Justin's waiting to talk. Are you going to change the topic, Justin, or do you want to jump in quick? Because I had one more example of cybersecurity that is horrifying that I need to share with you.
You finish your cybersecurity, and then I'll make my comment, and then we can move on.
Absolutely. All right. So this is just worth sharing. I think, because it's timely for one. We're coming up on November, which is the Extra Life campaign, which B5 Gray 15, Gray 17 has taken part in the last few years, and I'm still active in as part of my my job. We're putting together a team at our company this year, but a little bit of a side tangent. What I'm sorry, I'm falling apart here just trying to put the words in my mouth because of how shitty this was. Some very dear friends of ours, of my wife and I's, have a young boy. He's about 10 years old. I've known him his whole life. He is battling cancer. Luckily, the prognosis is very good at this point. It's been a long, horrible, traumatic road. But segue into our little story here. The Children's Cancer Hospital up in Chicago area, where he is being treated, fell victim to a cyber attack.
Yes, it did.
And can you imagine how fucking awful that is, that happened, and that it put literally a whole lot of children at severe risk because of a ransomware attack where some hacker knowingly or carelessly, who knows if it was targeted, who knows if it wasn't, fell victim to this, and they tried to squeeze money out of a fucking children's hospital. I mean, that's it's not a victimless crime always. I think some people kind of have that point of view, maybe myself included, until this happened. Corporations, screw them, whatever. But there are people who really, 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 really suffer when this kind of stuff happens. So that is my piece.
Justin.
Well, I was actually going to make a kind of crash joke about AI, but
sorry.
After what Mike said, I don't
do it. Do it.
I
No.
don't want to anymore.
Fuck that guy.
Okay.
Do it.
So you guys remember when they first started writing some of the AI software, and they had to analyze all of human interaction on Twitter, and the AI became a horrible Nazi white supremacist. Remember that was a thing? Fucking Skynet. Just keep your eyes on the skies, because AI is going to come kill us.
Well, hey, turns out it didn't require AI. Facebook did the exact same thing.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm reminded of this, but the episode of TNG where Barkley is in the holodeck, and the goddess of empathy shows up. Oh my God, that might be my favorite joke. No one knows what I'm talking about.
Nope, not at all.
Sadly, I don't. But
yeah,
I couldn't help it.
the whole idea that you can just program whatever the hell you want, and it'll just come to fruition exactly the way you want it to, using whosever image, doing God knows what. It is a very, very scary thing. Yeah.
Well, and talking about the holodeck, every time they leave the holodeck in Star Trek, and I know this is supposed to be about Babylon 5, but humor me for a second. Every time they leave the holodeck, it's like this picturesque, clean, square and grid pattern. Whereas, in reality, that's going to look like a fucking Jackson Pollock painting.
Lower Decks goes there.
Oh, do they? I need to watch
they
that.
do.
Lower Decks, they have to go clean the biocontainment and scrubbing systems on the holodeck.
And they say that it is the worst job on the ship.
All right. Yeah. Anybody have any final thoughts on River of Souls?
What about the scummy attorney and that whole bit?
Fuck that guy. Spark? Okay.
Oh my
God. Is it at all comforting that we've evolved 200 and some years, and lawyers are just as scummy, if not more so? It's like, oh,
I mean,
really?
honestly, to all of our attorney friends out there, we appreciate the work you do.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
You ambulance chaser fuckers like Saul Goodman, no.
Okay, let's be honest. We are friends with a few of those too.
Yeah.
Fuck them too. First of all, hey, I
was trying to be nice, Jessi. Come on.
I'm not a nice person. Listen, I will keep my thoughts to myself until we stop the record button, and then I will really tell you what I feel like. But
do it.
No, I'm a
You
snake
made
milker.
me
It
say
doesn't
my
matter.
piece. Now you say yours.
No, we don't say things that we don't mean, Justin.
All I can say is that when Lockley gave her rundown about like what part was it specifically? It was like sometimes they do this and they don't have any founding. Sometimes just doing it is a deterrent, is a nuisance, is a harassment. That's the point of it.
Right.
Hey, if you pick up a settlement along the way, whether you deserved it or not, that was a bonus too. I'm like, let me tell you, I didn't, because I am all too familiar with exactly this.
B5 addressed slap suits well before John Oliver.
That's all I will say about it. It rang so true that it hurt.
Yeah.
All right, let's go around and offer any final thoughts. And we will start with Emily.
Yeah.
She's been ignoring us
at this
the whole
rate,
time.
I think I'm just glad it's almost over, because if I have to be subjected to more of this shit, I wouldn't make it. And I'm sure all the fans feel the exact same way, because they're tired of me being like, well, this fucking sucked yet again, and I didn't like it.
That's why John Weiss wants to punch us in the face. Hi, John.
Joseph, I believe.
Joseph, yeah.
It's Joseph.
Oh, fuck. Oh, my God. Okay.
I know his
Joseph.
name.
Thank you. So I thought, yeah, okay. I'm not even going to make an excuse. I fucked it up. Moving on.
Ivanova.
Ivanova. Sorry, Joseph. I see Weiss, and that's all I'm not even about to try to make an excuse. I fucked it. I'm wrong.
So Jessi, how about your final thoughts?
I'm really glad that this is almost over. And so, listen, my friend came into town this weekend with her kids, and I was explaining to her that I had to watch this episode. As I was trying to find the goddamn episode, because I know you guys sent it in a link on the Google Drive, but when it came up on my phone, it was like fucking an inch by an inch. It was like tiny fucking little screen. And so I'm trying to find it on like some kind of streaming whatever, and I couldn't find it. So I'm like, well, fuck it. I guess I'm just gonna watch it on my phone. And she's like, well, how do you feel about the series? And I'm like, well, up until like season 5, I loved it. And then season 5 started, and now I'm watching these fucking movies with people with buttholes on their heads. We're there. So I would like to not watch any more movies. I would like to watch the last episode. I would like to hang out with you guys on that last night. And I'd like to be fucking done with all you guys.
We still have one movie left.
No, we don't.
No, don't say
Yes,
that.
we
I thought
do.
this was
Yes,
the
we
last
do.
It's
movie.
after next
Well,
weekend.
because had you all fuckers
Jessi and
been
I are
able to
done.
stay on schedule, we wouldn't have one more movie left. But
Wow.
now we have one more movie
And
left.
we
Nope,
should be watching Legends of the Rangers too, but I think
Shut
that
up,
would
Kevin.
break everyone.
I'm gonna just opt out. Thank you.
Nope, not an
I'm
option.
Yep.
done with the podcast. And thank you all for your time. Yeah.
You love us. Don't.
No, I love you guys. I don't love this fucking series anymore. And so Joseph, not John, Joseph, it's important to know people's names, guys. Joseph was like he commented on our Facebook page, and he's like, Jessi and Emily and Jessi. And then he went on to like talk about how we hate this fucking like series. And I'm like, no, I don't hate the series. I loved the series. Like, so for the first couple episodes, it was rough, right? Clearly, I had a hard time with Ivanova and like finding my way. But from like about Signs and Portents to see the end of season 4, I loved this series. And then season 5,
What's your problem?
Sucks.
This was a really long season 1 episode right here that we just watched.
Allow me to read the comment that Jessi is referring to.
Yes, please do.
Jessi and Emily and Jessi. I can't decide if you had more pain watching this show or if I had more pain listening to you complain about the greatest show ever. I also can't decide if I have more respect for your willingness to stick it out or if I have more respect for the podcast audience not killing you.
Listen.
For the record, I don't know which one of us approved that. I was letting it sit there, so I don't know.
So what did we respond to though? Like read our responses, because I feel like that just verifies that what I just said was probably similarly.
Yeah, that's about what you responded. You didn't threaten to throat punch him or anything like that.
I was gonna say, did I? Because I don't remember. No, and that's the thing is like I really thoroughly enjoyed most of season 1, season 2, season 3, season 4. And at that final episode in season 4, I was like, me and my husband discussed like, he's like, oh, this feels like the last episode. And I said, yeah, it really does. I don't know what's going to happen in season 5. Nothing. Nothing of value happened in season 5. And I hated every bit of it. And I hate these fucking movies. I hate the buttholes that I have to look at. And then listen, it's not the worst show I've ever watched. I actually do thoroughly enjoy when somebody says, "Hey, what should I watch Babylon 5?" I'll say, "Yeah, hey, watch season 1 through 4 and just stop. We're good." And I enjoyed it, but you guys are acting like I'm fucking, the worst when it comes to season 5 of these movies.
No.
It's because they're the worst. And I do like you guys ish. I like Mike and Emily a lot more than most of everybody else, just because I've had to deal with them a lot less.
Well, I'm a fucking delight.
He is a fucking delight.
He
Not
is
Emily,
a fucking
by the way.
delight. It is
Emily
true.
is the definition of a fucking delight.
So Justin, let's get your last thoughts.
Well, things I've learned today. Garibaldi was growing a chomo. That AI and Skynet are bad, but I already knew that. And apparently VR porn is already here. And you know what? I, for one, am going to be sad when this is over.
I agree with you. I do agree.
The end is here. When we started this journey, 2.5 years ago or something like that, I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know where it was going to go. I honestly didn't think that this was going to blow up into what it blew up into. And this has been a batshit crazy journey with everyone. And, I hope we all have our little things to go off of from here. And, Babylon, our time on the Babylon 5 station may be coming to an end, but I wouldn't say this is the end of Gray 17. At least I hope
No,
not.
we still have to look at the after, Beyond the Rim and fucking.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to drive out and stab Blake.
You don't have to.
She's gonna. And no, Justin, you still use a Mac, right?
Yeah.
Just remember, after the show, safe browsing in Safari is going to be your friend. Just use safe browsing mode.
Why?
When you said you learned about VR porn being a thing,
I learned that today.
Mode.
Yeah, I just learned that here a few minutes ago.
Well, I'm saying after the show today, use safe browsing mode.
Oh yeah, I will, because I got to charge my Oculus and then I have some important research to do. So.
Stop! No, don't.
VR porn's a thing? That's terrible. Where?
Abort.
And I have pictures of Jessi, so we'll see what happens.
No, listen, I do not consent. That is weird and rapey, and I hate it. And we're moving on.
Well, Love you. Worry about being stabbed by Jessi now. She's going to get someone well before she gets to me.
Okay, I just want you guys to
Indianapolis
understand.
is a lot closer.
We're all going to be in the same place on Saturday. So how about?
Oh shit, you're right. Okay,
maybe wait until
have you
after.
ever watched the movie
if none of you ever hear from me again, you know what happened.
And Jessi, if Justin is trying to take pictures of you from all different angles next weekend,
it would be no different than any other time that me and Justin hang out together. So what are we talking about?
It's a day that ends in Y. What's the point?
I asked Justin to come stay at my house, and I was kind of serious about having to lock him into his bedroom when he stayed at my house. So.
No, there was chains involved, and not in the way you think.
We've all seen the movie The Black Phone.
Not the fun chains. God damn it.
Anywho.
Mike, any last thoughts from you?
No, I'm gonna set up a podcast to do the Adventures of Briscoe County Jr. next, and I'm gonna make you all join me. It's gonna be great.
And Kevin.
And we'll also have to be watching the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles at some point.
Hell yeah.
Jesus Christ.
No. Yeah. No, I'm done.
We've had enough.
So, Jessi, before we fully get out of here tonight, do you have any conspiracy theories? We haven't had any Jessi conspiracy theories in a little bit.
Oh, please. Go to somebody else. Talk amongst yourselves. Give me a second. Sorry, Scott. You're gonna have to edit this.
So let's just leave him a silence, and he can cut this out easily.
Give me a second. Oh, please. Because I did have one. It was that Scott wasn't here for a certain reason, and I can't remember what it was.
Silent, but okay.
You said what?
So, Kevin, how about the Colts and Bears today?
Oh, how about them Colts?
Jessi, I said, and this is you not being silent, but okay.
Have you ever known me to be silent?
No.
I have questions. Okay, Scott, listen. Yes, I do have a conspiracy. Scott is not here today currently because he is involved in a very top secret FEMA meeting to plan the next natural disaster response. which includes not giving anybody their resources. You're welcome.
I mean, the weather machine will be charged back up to full power in another week or so, and then we got to be ready to flip that switch.
Yes. They're trying to decide what the best next natural
So
resource.
that means Scott's attacking St. Louis. Gotcha.
St. Louis, listen, St. Louis didn't do anything.
Like a kaiju?
Yeah.
Right.
Just a giant Scott.
I still love that the people who say climate change isn't real believe the Democrats can control the weather.
Yep.
You know, I'm going to, far be it for me to promote another podcast from our podcast, but here we go. If you've never listened to the podcast Stuff You Should Know,
I love
have you
that
been
one.
living under a fucking rock?
Ooh, I should check that one out.
It's incredible. And they just did an episode this past week about QAnon, and it was both great and made me want to blow my brains out.
Yeah.
So
they really are
there you
good
go.
too. They're like, you know how you listen to somebody and you're like, oh, I can't stand their voice, or oh, blah blah.
Josh and Chuck are incredible.
Yeah, they really are really, really, really good. And you can go back to the previous episodes, the episodes that they first did. There's some really good shit. If you like conspiracy theories.
I just followed them, so I'll check that out because I
they're good people,
replaced
and
some of my
has-
political podcasts with something else that is a little bit more.
Oh yeah, stuff you should know is great, and they've got some other ones that aren't the same guys, but same. It's all part of the How Stuff Works network. They've got like stuff they don't want you to know. That's another good one.
I've seen that one too. That one's good.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I wasn't paying attention to anything anybody was saying because
He's already started searching.
No, because right now I'm just picturing a giant Scott smashing Busch Stadium going, let's go Cubbies.
You leave Busch Stadium out of this, please. Thank you. Find another city.
Yeah. If there was a serum that Scott could take to become a kaiju and smash Busch Stadium, I think he would do it.
Yeah, he probably would.
Scott's busy with his FEMA meetings, so you guys stop talking about him. Thank you.
So I think that has more than concluded our discussion of River of Souls and side trips later. And
not sorry about the editing. You're gonna have to.
We tried our best, Scott.
We did.
Just let it rip at this point.
That's all I promised. I didn't promise anything. I just said we'll do our best.
This was it.
Please stop recording so I can tell you about how I feel about attorneys.
Can we finish the outro first and then you can tell us how you
maybe.
Just tell an AI to edit the episode for you and see what happens.
There you go. Buttholes. You're welcome.
So you have been listening to Gray 17, a Babylon 5 podcast, and as we mentioned at the start, for those that have been following, we are not doing a Beyond the Rim of the Buttholes this evening for this particular episode, as we don't feel the need to. I have been Blake, and with me has been the following Buttholes and Whorehouse employees.
Mike.
Emily.
Buttholes. Oh, Jessi.
Everybody's got a butthole and they all taste like shit. This is Justin.
Kevin. Jesus Christ.
We're done. That's it.
We've had enough. We're
Bye, everybody.
Jesus.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to Gray 17, a Babylon 5 podcast. You can find all the places to listen to and watch this podcast at anchor.fm/Gray17podcast or youtube.com @Gray17podcast. We want to hear from you, so join the conversation at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, or Patreon. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review where you are listening to or watching this podcast. Gray 17 is not affiliated with, and the podcast has not been prepared, approved, or licensed by Warner Brothers or any other owners of the Babylon 5 copyright. All clips included in this podcast are the intellectual property of the respective copyright holders. They are included here for purpose of review, and no infringement is intended. The opening and closing themes are available from Falling Matter on YouTube.
And what's out there?
The rim,
And beyond that?
the truth. I gotta tell you, you're way outside the kind of behavior that we allow in the employee handbook.